Hello and welcome to another episode of the Socially Numb podcast. Actually, we've had a pretty exciting week here as we've had like a ton of growth on the show in terms of the number of downloads. So we've increased by like 200% or something crazy like that. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I don't know if it's because we went to a little bit of a shorter format or if it's because we cut sports out or whatever and focus mainly on tech and that type of thing. But I'm pretty excited. So thank you for listening right off the bat. And along the lines of the show, I usually hit on it at the beginning of each episode, at least until we're 100% set up. But I've been continuing to work on the site. I don't actually do transcriptions for each episode, but what I've been looking at doing is trying to meet some accessibility standards with the site so that anyone, because I don't want to discriminate at all, can listen to the show. So one of the first things that I've done or have done in the past is I had the little bit of the show notes as a post on the site. Now, granted, we used to host a couple different shows, and now that we've kind of broken apart and focused mainly on Socially Numb, which revolves around my expertise, technology, and some other things, some other cool things that I've been playing, like video game-wise, or putting together myself, building like microcomputers and that type of thing. And now that I've focused more on that, I've been updating the site into more of a blog format, where each show, instead of just getting the bare minimum show notes that touch on what topics we talk about, I've been working through going back in the backlog and actually expanding on some of the issues, not into a full transcript. And it's going to take some time because I think I have 19 episodes to go through, which roughly equals out to like 17 hours or something crazy. So bear with me on that. I'm working hard on it. And I think in the future, I won't be behind the 8-ball. But I think right now, what I'm trying to do is get everything caught up so that we can expand and it will kind of show up more in search engine results. And it'll be a little bit more accessible. I'm not doing a pure transcription because some of the things that you hear might not be as good read. And I wanted to kind of be a supplement as well, where I write about each topic and it's not going to turn into a scripted show because I'm starting to get in the habit of writing them out. I've always written them out. So I still have my notes from the early shows. I just used those as talking points. So now I'm going back through and actually just putting those on the website. So some of the earlier ones might be a little bit rough and jagged, and I'm trying to like pretty them up a little bit, but they're going to be available from now on in the future. So that way, if you don't have time for a week and you feel like I'm going to miss a show and you really like the show, you can go ahead and go to the site and read about what we talk about. And if it's a topic, like let's say you don't have a lot of free time, but you like the show, you're interested in some of the things I talk about, you can go back through and read not just the keywords anymore, because some things I bring up extra, and it's kind of hard to just limit it in terms of quick show notes. And I don't like to do tons of show notes on the iTunes feed because I know some readers don't pick it up. They truncate it anyway. And so I try to focus and just put the main talking points and the keywords for the show. And that's been working pretty well. And I think it's expanding a good bit. And by expanding the show, I just mean about getting better reach. And until I start to put out the show, not in forms of advertisement, but just put it out there more, I want to try to get the site completely set up and accessibility built into everything so that it's compliant with like the accessibility standards. And I've had to change the embed for the download of the MP3 file. Before there was no little point to do it. I think I just had an A tag and it just downloaded. But with HTML5, they actually have an audio player built into browsers. And I've tested it on, because I have a Mac, if you've seen I don't even know if it's appeared in any of my Socially Numb videos. But it's a small MacBook Air that I got 3 years ago or so that I mainly use for just doing some light video editing and the podcast recording, some musical recordings. So it works well for the medium that I'm trying to do. And with that, I only have Firefox, Safari, and Chrome installed. So that's what I use to test with. So if you have trouble with accessing the site on Internet Explorer or Edge or any other browser that you use, please let me know. I have tested it on a couple Linux browsers that people might not be aware of, like Midori. What was the other one? NetSurf. And I've looked at the site on Lynx, which is a terminal web browser which only displays text. And I see that there are some issues, so I'm working to resolve those. And that's what I'm talking about. So like I'm trying to make the site as easily read as possible. So I want it to be read, like even if you were doing something terminal based where you were only getting the text delivered to you, maybe you have a super slow internet speed based on where you live, because we have been having listeners across the globe. So I understand that like here in the United States, we're pretty lucky, at least where I live, to have fiber internet. So we have great internet speeds. I know I'm lucky to be able to watch multiple sports games at the same time across different platforms on different TVs. And I think I talked about on here, I just set up dual TVs so that I can do that. I can game on one and watch sports on the other in my main den. And so that's great. And I know that we're lucky here, and I'm lucky. So I don't want people and I've been in places where you don't have the best internet or cell phone service. Like I know where my family's from, they don't have the top internet. So I want to make sure that we're accessible to everyone, not just with disabilities. Like I said, people don't have the best internet service provider or like the newest equipment. So if you're still using like an outdated Internet Explorer, please let me know. I'll try to like get things out there. Maybe even I can do a transcription type reader of my blog post for the week, because I know I can embed it inside the MP3 as a download. So maybe I'll look at doing that, and maybe I can expand into doing some type of RSS feed for just the PDFs of the show. But I'm not 100% sure, and they would just be the blog posts, because I'm not going to transcribe exactly every word I say, because I know I say like sometimes a lot, or and so and there I go. I don't want to just have a transcript full of that. But most of my talking points and things that I've done, especially some of the stories. Now, if you know before, if you followed us or followed me for a while, I used to have other contributors on the site. Still talking with them to see if they are going to be on this iteration of Socially Numb or not. But right now, it's focused on me. I've made the changes in social media. If you saw, there's no longer a Socially Numb page or group. I just have a Richie Leahey page right now. And I did that because if other people want to contribute, I don't want to have like splitting hairs and worry about updating Socially Numb other platforms on social media. If you want the latest at Socially Numb, what I'm talking about, what I'm into, just visit our site. It's not that hard. You can bookmark it. I would prefer that. I know we have ads up to help support some of like the extra costs, mainly with the podcast hosting. I have my site hosted on GitHub pages, so that's a free host, so I don't have to worry about costs there. The only cost I'm trying to offset is the actual podcast hosting. So that's great. Any help is appreciated. I might throw up like some download buttons. I don't think I'm going to do a straight Patreon or whatever, unless people really want me to put out extra episodes or things. I am throwing up extra videos, as you know, mostly tech related. I've talked about doing video game episodes, but I'm still going through the legalese. I know there have been some major changes, and I don't like how like the non-YouTube video hosts have like strict rules, access. You can only have certain time a month. Twitch is cool, but then again, it would be another cost for me to have unlimited videos. I do have it set up. I might throw that up. I think what I'm probably going to do is have Twitch automatically back up my videos to YouTube. So what I'm trying to do is find the legality of what games I can play that won't get me flagged for copyright, because I don't want my YouTube channel to be taken down. I'm starting to throw up some tech videos that show me going through different content. You know that first ones I've done are just showing off the Raspberry Pi, and I'm going to be expanding those to do some cool things. So if you want to check those out, check them out. I have them set up with ads to help offset some of the hosting costs for the podcast because YouTube's free itself. So anything you do, I appreciate and help out. Helps me out a large amount, actually. So I appreciate it, and I recommend if you're into that kind of thing, check it out. It's different content than the podcast. I don't just embed. I've thought about doing that, but that's not fair to listeners or watchers, viewers. So if you want the extra content, it's out there. It helps me out. The ad revenue will come into getting me more podcast gear. Some of the things I've been trying out with like guests and things on the sports show I do, the quality hasn't been the greatest. So if I'm going to bring guests into this show, I want that to be an improvement. So any proceeds will all go back into the show. I'm not worried about making money from this. I just enjoy doing it. So if you have any feedback on the site, please let me know. I know there's probably some errors, dead pages, dead links because we've been transitioning, and I'm sorry, I apologize for all of that, but it's tough. I'm not using like a WordPress or some other content management system that has the migrations built in. So I physically have to go through and test everything, and I am testing everything using a bunch of different plugins, check for errors, scan the site, make sure it's loading fast. I have the ads on there. Having some trouble with some of those, not being compliant with like screen readers and things. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them. Probably not going to get rid of them because I do use that money, like I said, to pay for the podcast hosts. But along those lines and getting into more of the video, I have been expanding, and I'm going to start bringing in more, I don't want to say personal topics, but some different things that I've been working on. They might be tech related a little bit, but some cool things. And some of them are like, I've been digging into like video and audio recording. I've done it for a while. I actually was in a band in college, and I'll probably talk about that story early on. But for those of you that have been following the site for a while, when it first started, there's a group of friends from college that we were talking about like things we've done over time, things that we did back then and we do now, go to concerts, cover events like that. And we actually have live podcasts recorded from some festivals, and I'm probably going to go ahead and be bringing those out, bringing out some of the old, very first episodes. So we went ahead, recorded it. I didn't have the best gear, so some of the quality is pretty rough. I have some things that I think are pretty funny. So it's going to bring a little bit more comedy, some uplifting stuff to the podcast. I think I have an explicit lyrics tag or whatever on iTunes for this podcast. And I normally don't swear anywhere throughout the show unless it's something that pisses me off, like the Nintendo Switch or whatever. Some of the things I'll probably talk about later in this episode. But we do have some pretty raunchy things from concerts we went to. I'll probably be sprinkling those in and bringing back some of the old content from the site. I've been looking at migrating it over, and I didn't want to do a disservice because now that we're focused on the podcast of just throwing it up and getting it buried. If you only listen to Socially Numb on the podcast, I'm going to bring in some stories. I don't know if I'm going to like script read my stories because we wrote them out before the podcast, and then we recorded some podcasts talking about them, but they were kind of broken up and it was kind of crazy. So we kind of scratched that idea, and I waited a little bit to launch the podcast, and I went solo on it. And the intention was always to bring guests in and then tell stories or whatever, interviews. But I don't want it to be like a strict interview podcast where people come on and just pitch what they're doing or whatever. I want to keep it engaging and more honest. I don't want it to just feel like I'm a pitch man pitching out products or whatever. It's actually what I use in the field as a professional, technology-wise, and other things like that. So that's going to be something to look forward to because I'm going to be bringing that content back. And I've been looking through. I might have about a year's worth of content if I stretch it out. And so I'm not going to focus full episodes on it. It's not like I'm going to mail it in for a while and put out old content. What I think I'm going to do is sprinkle it in at the end of some of these episodes. Maybe bring some length, a little bit longer length back into the show instead of doing like only half hour, 45 minutes. But it depends, because if the shorter episodes are getting a boom, now that makes me think that I should focus and keep doing shorter episodes. So much another beginning of an episode talking about plans for the site or whatever. I know we're still in a transition, but I'm going to be going ahead and with this, bringing in some older content. And we had some other bits and things that I had thought about doing on the show. So we might throw those in, make the show a little bit more entertaining. So look forward to that. And if you have any ideas, and like I said, I might bring in some caller segments or whatever, but I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to do that or not. It depends if I can get some off the ground, some of our older ones, and kind of talk about it and just start to throw that into the show as I get more of our tech things out. And so with that, I had a portfolio site that I set up that I haven't really used, and like with GitHub pages, I have some repositories that I built over the years. So I'm going to start looking at those too to actually show some hands-on stuff. It's not like big projects that I've built. Most of the big stuff I built I don't either have access to because I sold it, or it's like for a client now that they actively use it and it's like on a private either GitHub repository or private server somewhere where multiple people are working on it or cleaning it up for me or anything like that. But I do have, I think I went through, some of them were like stupid projects from school. Like, hey, yeah, I had to do this for like our book to kind of pass a programming class or whatever. Here's what I came up with. It might work, it might not. I think most of them work a little bit bare bones. So if you're interested in like computer stuff, I'm going to be bringing in some more hands-on examples. I thought about doing like videos on that, but again, I've mentioned it before, I don't like doing straight tutorial videos. If there is an interest, maybe I'll put up some type of course. I know they have like video hosting for like courses, or maybe I can go ahead and get like a small book together or something. And maybe if it is like extra, like so if Patreon's down the line, maybe that's something that we can bring in just to get some ideas out there. And for people who are interested in learning like how the computer works and what to do, and you don't want to go into big classes, maybe you're still in high school, because I have worked with younger kids before doing like I did Science Olympiad stuff. So that's one of the topics I'm going to cover, just like volunteer type work. So I've done that in the past. So if you are interested, doesn't matter how old or how much experience you have, hit me up on the contact form. That's live, although I haven't tested it to make sure that I'm getting emails, so I better make sure that I didn't miss any comments. I think I got a couple though, and I don't think that I missed them, but nothing to add to the show. But if you do leave a comment and you want it to be read on the show, let me know. Just put a note in there, and I'll go ahead and we'll start doing that. If you have any questions, I can talk about it, even like if it's like starting out. And I might hit some episodes up like that where I have pretty focused episodes, because I've been looking at, so up to this point with SoundCloud, I've had some trouble getting my account locked because I don't pay attention to the limit. It says 300 minutes, but that's a typo on their part. It should be 3 hours. So when I think 300 minutes, that's actually a couple, what is it? It's like 60 minutes an hour. So 300 minutes is how many hours? It's like, there's a disconnect there. So that's like, I think it's 5 hours is 300 minutes. No, that's wrong too. So it's like 3 or 4 hours instead of the actual 3 hour limit. So there's a little bit over. So when I calculated the episodes at first, I kept getting nicked for being over time, and I didn't know why. And then my account would be locked. I couldn't delete things. So when I delete it, I didn't automatically get the time back. They must have had someone who had to come in and manually check. So each week it was like a whole headache. I had to delete an episode. I thought I was under the limit. Boom, it hits me. So if you noticed, if you've been listening to SoundCloud, and most of the comments I get on there are complete spam. I think like most of them I get, I don't know about followers. I have had some people listen and like hit me up through there. So I guess it's not 100% loss. But what I think, because of the limit, and again, I'm not going to sink costs into a platform where I've read SoundCloud has been losing money and investment money over time. So is SoundCloud really worth it as an independent, small-time podcast producer? I don't think so. So I'm going to keep it out there. I do like the extra exposure. So if you listen to it, I might do some extra content. I haven't 100% decided, and maybe do it as a YouTube where I do like small little bits that are kind of like evergreen content, where I talk about maybe like getting your first computer or something and put it only on SoundCloud, and then have that link up so that if you want extra content and you use SoundCloud, you can do it. Great. But as for the regular podcast, I'm sorry, I just can't. I mean, I guess I could do maybe 2 hours of special content and then like each week put up the new episode, but then I have to delete it. And sometimes after, I don't know if it's because I've went over a couple times, but every time I go to delete an episode, it still takes time for me to get that extra time added to my account. So when I upload the new episode, it kind of like locks out a few of my other episodes, and I lose play counts or whatever, comments, likes. I think it's there. I might have a report later, but it seems like I lose them over time because I'm actually deleting the track. And I don't know if that's true or not, or if it's just because some of the likes I've gotten were like spam probably, and when the accounts get deleted, I lose them. I don't know. But it hasn't been 100% worth it for me. So I might just go ahead and like do stuff like just host a theme of the show on there, do some extra little content bits that I think people will find exciting, and use it like a YouTube extension. Sure, yeah, I don't think there's no monetization with that platform, so I won't be recouping the costs. So if you'd want to check it out, you can. Some of the extra things I might talk about on the regular podcast anyway, but it's just something that help expose the show. So yeah, some people that only listen on SoundCloud or use SoundCloud to find music, maybe they'll find out about the show that way and then want to check it more. But unfortunately, unless I get some people, like if I would get someone to donate for SoundCloud, which I haven't heard anything positive back, like, yeah, listen to SoundCloud. I have got some responses because I've talked about it in other episodes, and most people say that they just download it directly onto their phone, either iTunes or through another platform, maybe even from the site, I don't know, because I get a couple. I actually have a good bit, so if you are a listener, I am curious, because reading through my reports, there are a good number of people who download it through a Mozilla client, and I've been researching and trying to find out what that client is. It looks like it might be a Windows platform, which makes sense because most Mac people would use iTunes, which is where I think I get most of the downloads are from iTunes. But the second highest is from a Mozilla Windows client. And I don't use Windows, but if you do, let me know what you're downloading it with, because I'm highly interested in that. I would like to get more reach with the podcast. So I'm still looking at getting new hosts. And yeah, I need to fix the about page for the site and list all the new ones, because I did come across a couple other ones that host our podcast, but I've been interested in trying to track down and see who's downloading it on Windows. And I know I'm 23 minutes in talking about the podcast, so maybe you don't make it this far. But if you're one of the ones, because it's not only one person, there's a good chunk of people that have been downloading it through a Mozilla client and on the Windows operating system, according to our tracker. So please let me know, because I'm interested. And that way I know some friends that are on Windows and they're like, we don't know how to listen to podcasts. So it might be something cool to tell them, like, hey, check this out. Because if they're sitting in their office all day doing computer work like programming, I know a couple of them are like net programmers, so they can sit and listen to podcasts. So it's a good thing to go ahead and they can talk about some tech stuff, listen to some tech stuff, and maybe it will entice them to come ahead and be a guest on the show. And if you are using it and you want to call into the number. I've had some call-ins. If you've left a voicemail, let me know if I haven't gotten it. Some of the ones, I don't know if they're show related, so I haven't been playing them. But what I do is I use the number for a couple different shows because I don't have multiple phone lines. So it's a Google Voice number, actually. And I tested it a while ago. I guess I should revisit it. But if you leave a voicemail for the show, tell me what show you're listening to, because I do 3 different podcasts. One's a sports show, Southbound Sports. I've done some live videos for Southbound Times, which is another site that I've been trying to get work done on, but most of the stuff I've been doing is for Socially Numb and doing video stuff for my other podcasts. And then I have a parenting one called Dad Strength, which was the old site was hosted on this Socially Numb, which is why we've had some weird broken links and things on our site, as we've been trying to break those out into their own web spaces so that I can archive them later down the road in case like the shows don't continue or like guests quit calling in or whatever. But Socially Numb is my main show, so that one's going to rock on no matter what. And so I'm interested. I'm trying to get everything out there. But if you call in, just say like, hey, But while you can give your name, you can use your Twitter if you want because people will hear it. And just say like, hey, it's calling into the Socially Numb show, or this is for use on the Socially Numb show, so that I know what you're calling for and so that I can play it and put it out there. And then if you do, you're going to have to leave a voicemail. It's a number that sometimes it pops up. So like I know people have called and have got like some garbled mess. There was one, it was like a weird message that I received because Google Voice, if you've never heard of it, Google Voice is a platform for VoIP, voice over IP phone lines. So what that means is if you're a small business and you have a Google account, you can go ahead and have a free business number. So I set this up a while ago, and the number for the show that I've been putting out, I don't even know if it's on the Socially Numb or not. I don't know if it's on the contact form actually, but I did have it out there and I did give it out. It's a Pittsburgh-based number because I'm from Pennsylvania. So it's a Pittsburgh number because I used to do client work in Pennsylvania and built sites for some big clients out there in Pittsburgh. So it was easier for them. They made them feel like I was local even though I didn't live in Pittsburgh. And so the number stays on my account because it was tied with like my personal Gmail or whatever. So if you call it, at first it was my link to my cell phone, so my cell phone would ring. And now it goes ahead and goes to my browser. So like if I'm logged into that email and I'm like listening to music or whatever on my laptop, it will ring. And then I don't know, like if I'm out doing something, of course I'm not going to answer. So normally it just goes right to voicemail. So if you call the number, and I'm going to be putting it out, I'm going to make sure, maybe next week I'll look and have it on hand because I'm not going to mess around on this show looking for a number in the middle of it and distract myself. But I'm going to give it out. If you call, want to be on the show, ask me any tech questions, even if you're another programmer, what you use. I've been looking at some security stuff, so I might be bringing that in a good bit. And like I said, I'm going to be diving in, getting some of the old content from the site because I do know people search for it or they find it. So that's another reason why I'm going to be recycling content because I have the analytics and it's been using the same code. So I know when I get a 404 error for like some of the old content, and I know some people still share it. Like I know one of the articles was shared on Reddit way back, and I still get people coming from Reddit to look at the site. And I feel bad because the content's not going to be there. And maybe I can go ahead and throw some redirects in to the episode where I revisit it and add the content back. So that's my idea. It's not like that I'm recycling some content. I want to try to bring some new, fresh ideas. And then since the podcast is new, it's not even a year old yet, you can go back through and listen. And it kind of goes through and lets me get some use out of like my projects and stuff I built just for class. Because when you get into school, and I'll talk about doing computer programming at school, because I was an instructor and I did teach college level courses. So I know both sides of it. Like I know how some of the projects you need to know how to compile your own program. And so they give you like a basic, okay, here is a text-based command line program. Compile it so that it runs on a couple different operating systems. And I've done some really bare bones, I think the only 2 mobile applications. I did have some other ones that I'll probably talk about, but they're kind of outdated and I don't even have the code for anymore because I was like, I'm never going to work on these. And I don't know if Google Play Store actually might save one. But one of those I'm definitely going to revisit is like a heavy metal trivia app. It actually helped me transition into my first tech job where I started freelancing for bigger clients after work, which was surprising to me because of the content, a heavy metal trivia app. And I thought, hey, maybe I'll bring that back. I did think about doing like some small projects for the site to help promote it, where I threw together either some type of like flash game or like a small app like that where people can go in and try to do it. But I don't know. Depends on my time. I don't actually have the extra time right now to do that. And it depends if I like whatever I'm doing with my other shows. But I like doing Socially Numb the best, even though I have like other videos to do it. And I do like the sports and I do like the parenting stuff too. It's a good outlet for me and I enjoy doing it. So it's not like it's a waste of my time or like wears me out or anything, or I hate doing it. No, I enjoy doing it. So don't get that. It's just a time constraint as I'm trying to do different things. I have to pick and choose what I'm going to do. And that goes in with like the video game streaming because I'm still playing. As you know, before I used to bring in a game a week and I'm going to start doing that more and more often. And I think I might like have little sound clips for them so that you know what I'm talking about, and try to bring in more of like I don't want to do, it's not going to be scripted still. I still like the personal, honest nature where I just like talk about what I'm feeling, whatever I've been doing. But I'm going to be bringing in like, hey, some little music transition so that you know, like, hey, instead of it just being a hard transition where I'm ranting about one thing and then all of a sudden I take a left turn, I'm going to throw these little signals in. And so then that way you'll know, like, all right, he's going to start talking about his video game of the week. And I do like to do that. And even if I don't beat the game, some of them I might have like, so if I'm still playing it, if it's a longer game. So like, for example, and I know I've said so like 13 times in a row there, but for example, the game that I was playing most recently was Dynasty Warriors 7. And if you're familiar with Dynasty Warriors 7, it's a hack and slash game. So I play more for the story instead of the commands and stuff. And I've beaten all the other Dynasty Warriors, including, I know the numbering here in North America is different, but I actually beat the first fighting game for PlayStation. It was one of the first games that I had it was like the only game I had for PlayStation. Because if I remember correctly, the PlayStation 2 was backwards compatible. And so most people, like, I didn't have, and I've told the story about how I traded mine for a GameCube, but when the PlayStation 2 came out, it suffers the same fate that a lot of Nintendo consoles had. There weren't games for it right off the bat. Some of the games were kind of cool, but they were still kind of weird, like Dark Cloud. I know some people, I think that's on PlayStation, but I remember it being like a game like where I was just like, man, I wish I was playing Zelda. And so there seemed to be a lot of games like that for the PlayStation 2. And that's kind of where I got into Dynasty Warriors, because people would give me games to play. And so like they were giving me like old PlayStation games. That's why I'm pretty sure it was backwards compatible. And this is like, wow, it's almost like 2 decades now. So my memory could be a little foggy. But I do know I never owned the original PlayStation, but I did have this game. And because I know that's one of the things I used to like run the disc, because there was an emulator that would play the PlayStation disc in your computer on Windows Vista. It was like the only thing that Vista was good for me. Because then I was like, hey, I can still play this without my PlayStation 2. I never got rid of that game. I don't even know if I still have it. I might have got rid of it by now. But that first Dynasty Warriors game really got me into the rest of them. I liked the story. I liked the fighting. It kind of reminded me of, actually, I don't even know. It's kind of unique. But it was more of like, instead of like super crazy, overpowered superheroes, it was like based on real historic characters and time fighting. And I thought that was a cool concept. And I think someone should bring it back. And maybe they did. Maybe I'm just out of touch and I don't know. But it would be cool if you had like these warriors from over time, like throw in Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, and then put them all in like a fighting mashup game. I think that would be pretty cool. Even if it was like, could you imagine Dynasty Warriors style hack and slash game where you were these great warriors from time and you were trying to expand your empires? And it was kind of like, I don't know, some type of Risk game. Or like I played Axis and Allies too, where it's like World War II, if I could talk and say it. But it was a game like that where you would take over the world. I think that'd be cool. I like games like that where it's like historical fiction. And so, if I'm playing about it, I can't talk about it on the podcast every week because it's a long game. Like it takes like, I think if you go on howlongtobeat.com, which I use to like kind of baseline, like, hey, can I beat this game in a week for the podcast, or should I start it like a week in advance and then use it next week for the game? Because some of the free games are like only 4 hours. So yeah, that's pretty easy to beat. Just in spare time, I throw it on and beat throughout the week. But Dynasty Warriors is long, and there's 4 stories in Dynasty Warriors 7. And I didn't really play Conquest mode. I went through, beat a couple of them, but that just seemed like a grind. And after playing through 60 hours worth of stories or whatever it ended up being, it might have been like 40. I don't know. I could be exaggerating. I don't remember. But it took me quite a few weeks of like playing here and there. And so that's what I've been playing. And so I finally beat all the stories on that game. So that's pretty cool. And I have Dynasty Warriors 8 because I had played up until Dynasty Warriors 6. I'm pretty sure Dynasty Warriors 6 was a PlayStation 2 game. And that might have been like the last game I had for the PlayStation 2. And then I got a PlayStation 3 later, and I got these Dynasty Warrior games, and I just haven't played them. I just haven't had time. But there's talk now that Dynasty Warriors 9 is going to be an open world game. So I've been kind of excited about that. And I'm waiting for them to give out more details, because that would be like my dream. Like I said, about if the only thing that would be better is if they did a historical matchup where you had some of these great warriors from China and you matched them up against like the Alexander the Greats, the Genghis Khans, maybe Napoleon. I don't know how you'd mix and match, maybe like an Assassin's Creed style where they have like muskets. I don't know. Like, I mean, you could even have like George Washington. Who are some other ones from like North America? Like, there's some Indians like Squanto. Like, I think that would be cool. Mix in some cowboys where you're just like going through and trying to take over the world. Blackbeard the pirate. I think he's from North America. I could be wrong. But I know he sailed up through the Carolinas based on the history books here where I live. But that's what I've been looking at. That's what I've been playing. So it's a long game. I don't want to say it's drawn out. It's just long, so it takes it long to beat. And I enjoy the story. And there's been such a gap in when I played the last game that I don't remember. But I believe the Dynasty Warrior 7 has really expanded the story, because I don't remember the Jin story at all. And hopefully I'm pronouncing Jin right. Jin, I think, is what the new family was, because before I'm pretty sure there was only 3 families you could choose from. And those have been the same. And there's different stories and different characters. Like, I don't remember some of the ones that you played as in the old games, but I remember most of them. Like Cao Cao, I knew he was like the general and things. So like taking a few years off and revisiting it, I did find it very cool. And it's been expanded. And so it took me a long time to beat that game. And I still have like 30 or 40 PlayStation games to beat as I'm playing through and doing these. And I'm mixing in. I'm still trying to go through and beat up my Zelda games. So I think that's cool. And I'm trying to use that on the Socially Numb site somewhere where you can see. And I think I'm going to tie in, like, I have a list of like all the concerts I've gone to and all the games I've beaten, which I haven't gone through the games too much because like I kind of lost track and I started to use just trophies. So if you go on my PlayStation Trophies account, and my account's rleahy14. So if you want to add me, I don't even think I have that many friends, because most of the time I play, I don't play online. I play solo. And so I just kind of use that as my list now, even though it doesn't have my Nintendo games on it. I have the NES games I've beaten. I think I've saved, like I have a list of the ROMs or something for the NES games I've beaten. The Game Boy games, who knows? I don't remember. But I kind of use the trophy list just as that. I don't trophy hunt. I mean, maybe if it's a game I really like and I've been playing it for a while, or like the Star Wars game came out and there was no story. So I kind of went through and tried to do that and use it to see if it had any vested interest. But I think it was like Battlefront. Which one? I think it's Battlefront. And that was a very disappointing game. And we'll talk about that whenever if they have their new one come out or whatever. But that's what I've been playing. So I don't think that I forgot about the weekly game. I've been talking about the Nintendo Switch for the longest time. And there's not really any new news on it to cover this week. The one thing, Nintendo did release the specs. They didn't really show you anything that you really need to know. They did show, the one concern that I've had is that you can't swap the battery out, because I still use that. And ironically enough, is I have the 2 Dynasty Warrior games on the PSP almost completed, which of course there's no trophies on it. So it's not, like I said, talk through the game. I've been kind of trying to beat them back and forth. So going back to the PSP, but I've had 2 batteries for it that as I'm playing, I just swap in and out. And I have the same feeling the Switch. I would have loved to have that functionality. And on their specs page, they pretty much said that you can't swap it out, but you could send it away for warranty. And my thoughts on that is that they wanted to do that because they know that in a few years, they're going to have a new console. So as long as the batteries last 3 years without going bad, or 4 years, they can have a new updated Switch. Because if you think about it, Apple releases a new iPhone every year. And if this Switch is going to be a console that grows with you, who's to say that that's not their business plan? There are new tablets every year. How do you know? Because if they went ahead and they've planned out, okay, this is what we're going to go. We're all in for mobile to in-home gaming, console gaming. We make this and we just go ahead and make improvements on it. So whatever the handheld sticks are, The locking mechanisms, like they went ahead and they decided, hey, this are locked in for life. And we're going to go ahead and the Pro Controller, or maybe not. Maybe they just have the Pro Controller. That's the controller for life. There's not going to be any updates to it. And you're going to go ahead and be able to upgrade the base or buy just upgraded screens. Because who knows, as long as the docking station has the same dock, doesn't matter if the screen gets a little bit thicker or a little bigger. As long as the newer ones fit in that dock, they can upgrade those every year. And then that way, if you have multiple kids in the house and you're playing games that, like let's say you wanted to play Mario Kart on the go, and everyone needed a different screen to play, you could like go ahead, put the game in one console. That's how the 3DS works. There are games where you only need one cartridge. So you put the game in, you have two screens, you can play two-player. Just like they connect wirelessly, locally, or whatever, ad hoc is what it was called back in the day. Who knows what they're going to call it now. But that's what my theory is. And so when the battery goes, they're going to expect you to just buy a new tablet screen. And I don't know. That's just my theory on it. Because of some of the specs, they haven't been releasing it. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I mean, they've done it with the 3DS. They had the DS, and they had a couple of versions of that. They had a DSi, then they had the 3DS. Now they have a 2DS, which is basically the 3DS minus 2D, or minus 3D screen. So you just have two screens that are stacked. Then they have the 3DS XL, like the large one. Then they have the Slim or the new one, whatever the $100 one is that I got over Thanksgiving, Black Friday. Like they just keep having ones that are coming out more powerful, longer battery life. And then that's it. They play all the same games. So as long as Nintendo's like, hey, we can go with this virtual console, maybe have like the games get added to your account every month. You pay for it like PlayStation. As long as you keep paying for it, you can play for the games. Now, if they make you delete the games from your account, that's kind of shady. And I'd be very disappointed in them. So maybe they haven't been clear on that, but that's my other concern besides the battery. So maybe we'll have some new news on that later on. But as of now, I beat Dynasty Warrior 7. I've been playing some other games, playing through Little Big Planet. So I'll probably talk about that next week. I was able to beat the first one, but not in time to have notes for the show. And I've also been playing through like Resident Evil 5, which was surprisingly a co-op game. I didn't really look into it. I just know that I enjoyed Resident Evil 4 for the GameCube. And now playing 5, I don't know if I enjoy it. But I haven't played it all the way through. Co-op is okay. I have random people join my games. There's no way for me to like reject them or accept them. I think I found like it just randomly happens. If I restart, I think they're automatically added. I tried to restart once and they weren't added. I don't know, but look for that. The gaming a week, that's still in. It just might not be games I've beaten. I've looked into streaming. Like I said, that's going to be coming. There's probably going to be an announcement on that soon. I don't know. It just depends on the game. And I might just do one game. Like I might just do one game for Socially Numb, whether it be like some type of Minecraft where I'm just building things, whatever, and just adding some extra social commentary or whatever. But I don't know. But I think that's it pretty much for the episode this week. I don't know. I heard some clicks in my equipment, so I hope that we got good sound. I hope it wasn't something that I was peaking the levels or something and had some bad quality, but we've been doing good quality-wise on the sound and everything. So I'm hoping that continues. Keep looking for extra things. I've been doing some videos and things, some like the older content. And one of the cool things that I'm going to be doing here in the future is I'm going to be releasing, I'm playing around with my camera. So I did like pro photography for clients, mainly headshots, whatever, for their website. I went out like business shots, buildings, whatever. So I have experience doing that, and I've started to do kind of just like main photography on the side, and haven't really been putting too much time into it as like a business because I'm just not motivated for that. But I do like taking photography, so I've been messing around with it, and I've started to get back into video. And along with being in a band before, I had some demos, and I've done some music for some video games for a friend of mine. And I have just little clips. They're like minute long. So I've been doing like little videos, and I'm going to try to put those up. And then I'm going to feature one each week. Now, this isn't going to be a weekly segment. But it's something new I'm going to try to add along with some of my old programming content, because like once I'm out of this content, like that's it. So it's kind of like a inside bonus content based on whatever extra week. So it might be used to add some length to the show here next week. I know I went pretty long, again, talking about some future plans, but I'm just going to start doing it, and you're going to see it show up in the show. And hopefully I'm going to stop talking about the direction of the show. It's just going to be the show. So keep looking for that, and hopefully the site will be completely transitioned by next week. And what that means is there'll be no more socially numb videos until I finish that. And then I'm going to be diving into some Raspberry Pi projects and some extra content there on the video side, and hopefully the streaming. But my idea was to have it done February sometime. That started here. We're close. So hopefully I have it done early February, not by the end of the month. I don't want to keep putting it off. I want to have everything up, start to add some new content, some stuff. I know some stuff people have been looking for. Going to be bringing that in the episode because obviously it's still alive somewhere, whether it's all coming from a Reddit link somewhere or it's coming from just general search results. I do have some of our old content that has been shared. I'm going to be bringing it into the episode, adding redirects, so hopefully people who are looking for it can find it, because I don't know with the free hosting if redirects are even a thing, but I'll be finding that out. So keep an eye out for that. Again, reach out to me, contact me if you have any questions for the show or want to be featured. Let me know. We can do guest call-ins. I don't know if I'm going to have like guests come on and interview with Skype or something, or FaceTime, but that's always an option too. So if you're in the tech world and you've been listening, let me know, reach out to me. Also, if you're one of the ones using the Windows Mozilla client for podcasting, please let me know because I'm interested in that. So that's it for this week. Thank you for listening. Keep an eye out for that new content. Give me some feedback on the site. Try to break it here in a week or so, and I'll be trying to do fixes as fast as possible as I get these updated posts and missing content back incorporated into future episodes. So thanks for listening. I am your host, Richie Leahey. Follow me on social media and make sure you leave a review for the show. I'm going to try to make a push to get some of those up there because I need to get some feedback on that to help promote it. So thank you.